Welcome back, everybody. IGN Live at San Diego Comic-Con, brought to you by The Evil Within and Lucy. Now it's time to talk about Star Wars Rebels.
Yes, it is.
Dave Filoni here is executive producer, and both Freddie, Prinze Jr. and Vanessa Marshall lend their voices to characters on the show. Dave, maybe start us off telling us about what Star Wars Rebels is all about.
Well, it's a story that takes place between episode 3 and 4 of the films, and it's about the fledgling rebels that are forming, fighting back against the Empire, and the Empire has control of everything. So I think it's a familiar way of looking at Star Wars for the older fans. Sure. We grew up running from the Empire constantly, so these guys are constantly running from the Empire, trying to stay out of the way and do what little damage they can with their meager resources.
Now, Freddie, you get to play a Jedi, which obviously for all of us sitting here is a dream come true. What is it like for you to get to play this guy?
I mean, the easiest way to describe it is this scar on my chin. I don't know if you can see it. When I was 5 years old, we bent this aluminum flagpole back and forth until it snapped, because we're very smart 5-year-olds.
Right.
And I was Luke and he was Vader, my cousin Chris, and I was sliding down this slide on a big play structure, and my lightsaber hit the ground before I did, and thunk, right into my chin, and literally just fell out. So Star Wars has sort of been in my blood like everyone else's forever. I mean, yeah, literally. You hear, use the Force as much as you hear "I love you." You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's a cultural thing.
The phrases are kind of interchangeable.
Yeah.
The Force is strong with this one. I love you.
Plus, it's like a Harrison Ford scar. Right?
By the way, there's people who exchange wedding vows with "May the Force be with you."
Vanessa, I know you two are a big Star Wars fan. What's it like to get? And you get to play a hotshot pilot of sorts. Yes. You talk about your character and what's it like getting to be part of Star Wars.
Yes, I get to play Hera Syndulla. She's the head pilot of the Ghost, and I'm the getaway driver, and I shoot down many TIE fighters. She's an expert military person with a blaster, her bare hands. She's really great, but what's also interesting about her is that she's very nurturing and kind at the same time. So she manages to...
Ma Hera.
That's right. She's the mother of the group in a sense, and she guides and leads them in a way that's very kind, and she can fight well at the same time, making her fascinating.
That may be the first time she's discussed Hera and a tear didn't drop
Later on, though.
You'll get one, you'll get one later. You bring Han Solo in here, you'll see tears.
Well, you'll see more than tears.
That'll be all of us.
From all of us.
Freddie, your character's a Jedi, but sort of a Jedi in hiding. Isn't that right?
Yeah, it's a weird time for Jedi. They are more than in hiding. You don't even want to be noticed. So he keeps everything as low profile as he can. You know, any force he's using isn't going to be anything that people would notice. However, there are people that he works with who are aware of what's going on in his situation, and we get to make a really, really cool reveal in a pilot epic sort of movie thing that everybody's going to get to see very soon. And then you sort of get to see where his actual Jedi skills are at throughout the course of the season. And because his training was stopped at such a young age, don't think he's going to be like the baddest dude you've seen since Luke. He probably won't be. So you get to kind of see the growth of this guy, both as a rebel and as a Jedi, which is a lot of fun.
Dave, is it interesting, and I say weird but interesting for you to cover this era, because we know that as far as most people know, the Jedi are gone, but there might be a few scattered out there as we have representation, but also, you mentioned before how there are still people being born with Force abilities, and sort of how you cover what's going on in that material at the time.
Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't stop. People don't stop having this intuitive ability because the Empire took over. I think that when you look at it, anyone born that can use the Force is some threat to the Empire. So I think it's reasonable to think that the Emperor wants to, crush any motivation that anyone could rise up to combat him. That's why we invented the Inquisitor, someone else that can also be seeking out, hunting down our rebels, as opposed to Vader, who's rather famous for doing that.
Right.
There were around 10,000 Jedi at the time of the Clone Wars. That number has diminished to almost an insignificant amount. So how do you find these individuals? And I think it's not just former Jedi or surviving Jedi, it's also children that are born throughout the galaxy that are intuitive with the Force, like Ezra. So, what happens to a boy like that? He might not be as remarkable as Luke with such a mission to become the new hope, to be the light in the darkness. But there are stories, I think, for these other kids throughout the galaxy, and how are they surviving? And Ezra's lucky because he meets this crew here, and in the end of it, I don't want to give too much away, but I think Ezra and Kanan, they both need each other to figure out what it really means to be a Jedi and how to truly use the Force, because he had everything taken away from him. He saw his entire way of life destroyed. And Ezra doesn't know any other life but the oppression of the Empire. And so when the two come together, they kind of are two halves of a whole, and their relationship grows out of that.
Now, we do have a question from one of our viewers for you guys from Facebook here, if we can bring this up. Michael Campos asks, where do you grab inspiration for the show?
Anywhere.
That was a grapefruit you just threw us there. That's the easiest.
I'll give you a funny inspiration for one episode, basically, and I don't think it's too big a spoiler, but I used to take my action figures as a kid, and I put some of the good guys in a TIE fighter, because I loved the TIE fighter. I'm like, well, why can't the good guys have this? It's cool. And so literally that was a genesis for an episode where our team will steal a TIE fighter, and we see the good guys in a TIE fighter. Simple things like that, and then, you know, other questions that we need to answer as far as what the Rebel Alliance, you know, is up to, and we kind of look at the history of it and try to figure out, well, we need to tell this story. This would be a good story to tell. But I get inspiration all over, ridiculous things sometimes. I can't say the inspiration without giving away an episode. The stealing of a TIE fighter is going to have to get it, though.
After it airs.
Later on.
Yes.
It's always later on where I can discuss it at length.
Vanessa, I'm sure Dave will leap across this desk if you say too much, but
I won't.
You know, Dave has talked about.
You'll see her get force gripped out of nowhere.
You know, Dave has talked about how this is an era where there are some people who are very pro-Empire. We know why anyone who is a Jedi would not be, but can you say anything about your character and what would make her be a rebel?
Well, she was alive during the Clone Wars, and she was there when all the Jedi were killed with Order 66, and I think watching many people that she cared about die, and their literal extermination of all sorts of planets and races as they, you know, spread out to Lothal is where we are, but as they've gone along, they've literally just murdered anything in their way, and so it's pretty easy to get behind trying to make a difference. I mean, that's the one thing about this show that I think is really important, and it really speaks to kids today, to adults. It's sort of universal, is that the phrase, it takes a spark to start a revolution, that it just takes one person to make a choice to do something differently and do the right thing. And Hera in particular has made that choice initially and gathered these people into one ship, and that's our main goal. And it's cool to see all the different characters grow into and revealing why they're actually there and committed to it. So it's a really cool journey. So I will learn more as you do.
Right.
Yeah.
This is a very big, exciting time for Star Wars in general. Dave, you come off several years working on Star Wars with the Clone Wars, but for you, but really for all of you, what's it like working on Star Wars right now with everything going on, knowing that you are part of a big, growing puzzle now? You're really the first big part of what's going to be the new generation of Star Wars and the next era of Star Wars.
Well, yeah, for me being here at Lucasfilm now 8 into 9 years, it's, I think, an important time because I feel very strongly about the legacy to uphold that George has passed on to all of us. And since I worked with George directly, you know, I know he's going to have an eye on what we're doing, and it's important to me that it rings true for what Star Wars always was. I think the message to fans that Rebels begins is that Star Wars is alive and well. It's Star Wars like you know it, but it's, you know, it's exciting, it's evolving. And we have a great collaborative team of creatives working across so many different mediums. You know, I meet the lead creatives that are working on the films. We discuss different things that are going on in each of their projects, and you know, we're collaborative that way, in a way that Lucasfilm never really was, because we always had George. Yeah. And now it's just taking all of us to kind of come together to be one George. Some kind of weird transformer combiner. Yeah. You know, I'm not sure who the head is, but you know, that's always the one in Black Lion. But you know, yeah. So it's amazing. It's exciting. You know, anything that's blurred about Episode 7, it's amazing how it lights up around the world, and I think they're doing a great job, and Rebels is a part of that, which is, I think, tremendously exciting. This launch, in so many ways, is different than Clone Wars, just from the reception from fans already. Sure. Largely sight unseen. They all seem to know about it in a way that they knew about Clone Wars, but they didn't know what Star Wars animation was, and I think that now they just kind of accept it as part of the story, which is
Because
a real
of
great
Clone
nod.
Wars, I would think.
Yeah,
they
in
do
part,
that. Because
yeah.
There's a lot of goodwill generated by that.
Yeah.
When does Rebels premiere?
October, right? Do you know the exact date? You think I would know?
October sounds great.
I'm just
I wish it was
making
sooner,
it.
man.
Right.
Tonight.
That would be great. I want to show my kids. She keeps asking when she can see it, man.
I'll bring her by.
Thank you. Thanks
You can
very
see it
much.
anytime.
Appreciate it.
Guys, thank you so much for coming by.
That's
Thank
Looks
you.
great. We'll be
Thanks so
tuning in October.
Take it easy.
Thanks.
Stay tuned for more from IGN Live San Diego Comic-Con right after these messages.